man. They were beating us to the punch. It starts with coaching, then playing. They were on it. We were not. But thankfully, man, like we were talking about last week, we got a group that sticks together, man, a group that's mentally tough and is able to persevere, and I'm thankful for that. But obviously, we can't keep having these conversations every week because one of these weeks we'll be doing it with an L if we're not careful.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. I'm Missi Matthews. No confetti today, as Coach Tomlin said. The Steelers, though, starting 8-0, the best start in franchise history. We have a lot to dissect and talk about over the Steelers' 24-19 win over the Cowboys in Dallas. Let's introduce today's panel. We have Mike Prisuta from the DVE Morning Show. You can also hear him on WDVE on Steelers game days. Greg Wolfley as well on DVE and SNR, and Matt Williamson from SNR as well is here. And guys, you heard Coach saying what he said immediately following the game. It was not one of those wins that you felt great about. So why does it feel, Mike, we'll start with you, that recently with all the wins the Steelers have been stacking, it has always been a victory Monday. Does it feel almost like a loss?
No, it doesn't. I think the standards are too high. It's mid-season. I do think they're still developing. I do think there are a lot of things they can do better, but I keep hearing all this talk about got to play a complete game. Who in the NFL is playing a complete game every game? Do you think yesterday felt more like a win for the Steelers than what happened Sunday night felt like a loss for Tampa Bay? The Ravens have felt like a loss twice because they've actually lost 2 games. Kansas City felt like it lost the game because it, lost the game. Yeah, they can play better. They're not the perfect team by any stretch, but wins are hard to come by, particularly when you come back on the road. And up until yesterday, they were playing some pretty good teams. Did anybody really think they were going to just roll Tennessee and Baltimore? I did not.
All right, Wolf, what do you think about the Steelers' recent win, especially that one in Tennessee? If you want to go back to that one that Prisuta brought up, the players said it didn't feel good, and everybody keeps saying there's things to work on. How did you feel after yesterday's win?
Well, I feel about yesterday's win the way I used to as a player. A win's a win, baby. That's just the way it is. And it goes down in the books as a W. Nobody, not one of those guys in the locker room actually really cares that you sit there and say, well, it didn't really feel like a win. You understand that you play at different levels week in and week out throughout the season. There are different RPM levels that your brain gets risen to on game day. And sometimes you're not able to muster the same sort of mogination that you do otherwise, but they found enough to find ways to win, and that's the big key. The problem is there's a lot of people standing outside around the circumference of the team, and they're all going, well, they didn't play very good in the first quarter, or they didn't play very good in the first half, or when they needed a stop, they didn't get this. Here's the thing about it. At the bottom end of the whole deal, Ben Roethlisberger made the plays he needed to make to put them up points-wise, and Cam Hayward and crew made the plays they needed to get them off the field defensive-wise. And the Boz came through with a record-setting kick to keep things close and interesting at halftime. Those elements all came together. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a Picasso, but life rarely ever paints a Picasso.
All right, Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this. When you look at the miscellaneous statistics in terms of trailing in this game, the Steelers were trailing for 21 minutes and 19 seconds. How did you feel after the win yesterday?
Yeah, it took to the 2:14 mark in the fourth quarter before they actually got the lead, and they lost the time of possession battle by 7 minutes, and that's been a theme over the last couple of weeks. But they won the turnover battle, and to Wolf's point, I thought they were the best team when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. And Mike mentioned the Bucs, the Chiefs, those teams are as complete and as strong as anyone in the league. At least if I thought that Saturday, but they both struggled or got blown out. And a couple of these, quote, bottom-feeding teams in the league, the Jets tonight, this is their Super Bowl against the Patriots. I bet they don't just roll over and die. The Texans, the Jags, some of these bottom-feeding teams, the Giants, the Redskins, Washington, played pretty well. It's hard to win 8 games in a row, let alone 3 on the road. If you look at the percentages of the third road game in a row, it's very low in this league that you win that game. And they got out of there with a W. That's all that matters.
All right, guys, at the very end of the game, 4th and 1 from the Cowboys 15, Coach Tomlin elected to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. Let's hear his explanation after the game. This was a Mike Prisuta question, by the way.
You know, they were beating us to the punch pretty much for the better part of the day in special teams. You know, we missed the extra point. They blocked a field goal attempt. We skied a kick trying to pin them down into territory, and they flipped the field with a big kickoff return. I had just seen enough of their dominance in teams. And so, you know, I got a great deal of confidence in our short yardage abilities. Obviously, it didn't work out for us there.
All right, Mike, I gave you props for the question. If you were the head coach and making the decision, would you have kicked the field goal in that situation?
You know, I'm not sure what I would have done because I've been going back and forth on that ever since this morning. But I think he did the right thing because the place kick operation was well below the line. One of the ways you could lose that game is Dallas blocks it and runs it back for a touchdown. I think the Cowboys only scored one touchdown all day, so the thought of them driving the field and scoring to win late didn't seem real likely. It seemed like a quicker path for them would be to block a field goal. My biggest regret about the whole sequence upon further review, Chase Claypool, don't worry so much about staying in bounds. Just pick up the first down. Then you can go out of bounds and you can run the clock out anyway. I think he kind of overthought that on the wide receiver sweep there. It worked out. If you put me in that position on the hot seat, I'm not sure what I would have done, but boy, it would have been a just agonizing way to lose. It really would have felt like a loss if Dallas blocked a field goal and ran it back for a touchdown.
All right, Wolf, what would you have done in that situation?
Well, I'm kind of like Mike Tomlin. I don't live in my fears, but I do take counsel in some of my concerns. And I will say this. It's kind of like the theory, if you see me running, okay, that means something wicked this way comes. You better start running too. If Mike Tomlin didn't want to send his field goal team out there for some major concerns, I'm with you, okay? My only thought process would be similar as Mike said. That would have been great had Chase Claypool stayed in bounds, or I'm sorry, gotten the first down first. But I would have gone with more of a straight ahead approach rather than the counter trap that they ran. That thing was doomed from the start.
Okay, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, obviously, he can say what he wants, but he feared getting the field goal blocked, and he should have by the other instances we've seen of them trying to attempt a field goal in that game. Dallas had their number. They had something figured out. And I also think he was a little worried about his ability for the offensive line to get a push in a traditional manner and just run Connor up the gut, because that wasn't working in this game either. So I think the play call and the decision to go for it showed us his concerns.
All right, guys, speaking of concerns, we are going to talk about those for offense and defense. And also, I want to get your second quarter report cards. We will do that and much more when we return here on the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface.
He's in the shotgun. Elliott to his right. Twins stacked tight to the formation, to the wide side left. He's back, he looks. Pocket collapses, down he goes at the 20-yard line. Alex Highsmith, the rookie out of Charlotte, a former 49er. That Charlotte 49er, third-round pick, makes the sack. And for Alex, that's his first sack of the season.
All right, Alex Highsmith with his first career sack yesterday. First interception the game before. The Steelers now have 65 consecutive games with at least one sack, getting closer and closer to the record held by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Welcome back to the Extra Point, everyone. Let's talk about, guys, what concerns we have moving forward after the first 8 games. No report cards just yet. We're going to get to those. But in terms of what you saw from the defense yesterday, Prisuta, what concerns do you have?
Third down / possession down sub package. I think this has been the elephant in the room ever since Devin Bush got hurt. Robert Spillane's done a real nice job filling in on first and second down, certainly exceeded my expectations. Everybody associated with the team says they're not surprised. He's a player. He can do all this. But if you look at yesterday, 8 for 17, Dallas was converting third downs. They tried to – now, the funny part about this is almost every one of them was a 3 wide receiver set, okay? They tried to base 4 times. They tried to nickel 6 times. And they tried to dime 7 times. And they tried to dime with 3 – they tried it with Vince Williams. They tried it with Marcus Allen. And they tried it with Robert Spillane. Again, against almost the identical formation every time. That tells me that they don't know what to do. There's not a leading candidate in that election. What do we do in this situation? They used to have that figured out. Now they don't. If possessions are extended, points get threatened to be scored, the offense gets less time to play with the football, it would be bad.
All right, Wolf, what are your biggest concerns about the Steelers' defense?
Well, I think yesterday kind of manifested itself when you watched Ezekiel Elliott with a hammy that was barking, and Tony Pollard, and you got some rushing yardage by the great Garrett Gilbert. So the fact of the matter is, you look at that, and it just bothered me in the sense of, to quote Chuck Noll, and when he took out John Goodman after one game, they were being blocked. Why did you take John out? They were being blocked. And that was a notable quote. And one of the things I think that we're missing is Tyson Alu. Did we realize what we had going with this guy early on? Because this guy has been playing terrific nose tackle. We're missing Mike Hilton and his tackling expertise. We're also missing some hard practices. Look, again, because I'm into the Chuck Noll quote thing, Coach Noll always used to say, before you do it in a game, you got to do it in practice. Last week was a long walkthrough. They've had some, easier practices and everything else over the last couple of weeks. And I think that probably is coming back to bite them a little bit. You got to go a little bit hard and be able to deliver in practice before you do it in a game.
All right, Matt, what concerns you most?
Yeah, this past game was concerning without question because you played more heavier personnel. I think they feared Elliott in the run game more than the quarterback, who was the unknown, and they still allowed yardage on the ground. You saw a more passive game plan, less blitzing, less attacking, Bud and Watt dropping into coverage more, playing off the line of scrimmage as opposed to attacking. And they still allowed yardage, on the ground. And it didn't bother me that they would get CeeDee Lamb matched up on a linebacker, because that's how the Steelers drew it up in this game. But since Devin Bush has been out, they've been allowing too many long runs, 409 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. And I think they need to get that figured out. And to Mike's point, Kevin Colbert doesn't go trade for a linebacker unless he thinks he needs it. And we might see Avery Williamson a lot more going forward.
Yeah, and speaking of Avery Williamson, he was active yesterday. He did not play any snaps for the Steelers, was only allowed to join the team in person on Saturday. So flipping to the offense, Prisuta, what concerns you most about that group?
Now it's my turn to address the running game. It's the Steelers' running game. And that is an issue. Short yardage is an issue. They were piling up some numbers earlier in the season, and a lot of it was jet sweepish and wide receivers doing some things. Yeah, they had some backs with some 100-yard games as well. But, curious again yesterday, 3rd and 1, Anthony McFarland, 4th and 1, Benny Snell. We think James Conner's an all-pro when he's healthy on the short yardage stuff. If they don't run the ball better, they won't possess it. And if they have to spread them out and go 5 wides empty all the time, hey, that's been marvelous the last couple of weeks. I've loved watching it, but seeing Ben Roethlisberger get sandwiched by a couple of Cowboys with ill intent and watching him limp around reminds me how quickly this can go away. They got to run the ball more just to limit the risk and preserve their – you got to live in your fear a little bit that your quarterback might get hurt, because that's the movie when he doesn't play. I saw that last year. I don't want to see it again.
All right, Wolf, what about you? What's concerning you?
Well, you've got November, December, Northeastern football, and Mike Tomlin's words descending upon you. You've got to develop the running game. Mike's exactly correct. And if you can't get a yard on a 4th and 1 that you need, then by golly, you better make sure you got a fullback in there that does a little bit of, I don't know. I mean, if it's time to threaten the 300-pound ballistic enema to get offensive linemen moving forward, trust me, I've been there and done that. That hurts. You will get those ham hocks churning, and you will grind out that 1 yard that you need. I think it's the football, or the running of the football, that is really what bothers me most, what the Steelers are going to need coming up.
Matt, do you agree it's the run game, or is there something else that also concerns you about the offense?
Without question, Ben's deep ball also worries me, and I think that contributes to their inability to run the football because people are going to crowd the line of scrimmage more as they figure out that Ben's not beating them over the top. But it's more just the early down successes. They haven't been there all year, and the Steelers have relied, and Ben's been amazing on third downs, but that's not a winning formula. They need to put him in better situations with early down success, and yes, that absolutely starts with the run.
All right, guys, time for one more break here on the Extra Point. It is Wolf's favorite time, grading time. Get your report cards ready. We are going to do that when we return.
Ben back there by himself, wide side to the left. He throws it to the left. That's Eric Ebron over a man into the end zone. He was Dumbo the flying elephant, went airborne, went over a tackler and scored from 8 yards out.
Love it. Eric Ebron out in the flat. He just hurdles his man. And there is no dirt like pay dirt.
Air Ebron there. Welcome back, everybody, to the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We are 8 games through the 2020 season. Second quarter is done. So, guys, it is time to hand out some grades and fill out those report cards. Mike, we'll start with you, and we will go with the offense. What is your grade through the first 8 games?
I'll give you the whole midterm grade since we're at 8
okay,
games.
I like it.
I'll go B's across the board. Do you want me to break these down individually or
please
one at a time? Offense. The last 2 weeks have really, believe it or not, picked things up in my estimation because I was wondering if that old Ben Roethlisberger spread them out and run the show 2-minute no huddle guy was still there. We hadn't seen a ton of that early in the season. I think they're really on to something with this receiving group. And Ebron, yeah, they got to run the ball better. That's why they get a B. Could probably score a few more points, but that hasn't been the biggest of concerns of late. Defensively, giving up too many big plays, but a lot of splash, a lot of sack, a lot of tackle for a loss, a lot of takeaway. That's fine. Keep doing that. And special teams would get an A other than yesterday it got an F. So I reduced that to a B. Really, that's the only bad special teams game. Ray McLeod's been a revelation returning. The coverage before yesterday has been outstanding. Boswell before yesterday has been outstanding. And as I've said on these programs many times, as long as you have a breathing human who can catch the ball and advance it forward, I don't care who punts.
Okay, Professor Wolfley, take us through offense, defense, special teams. Give us your grades.
I would go B offense, B minus on defense, and C minus on offense. And of course, I grade on a curve because on account I flunked too many classes, and it was always disappointing to me. So I try to give a little booster to everybody. So the B, the only difference is the running game's got to be reestablished. You got to come back with that. There's no question in my mind. There's always this feeling that there's just a little, to quote Mike Tomlin, a little more meat on the bone that could have been served up. And certainly you don't want to go into Thanksgiving leaving any meat on the bone whatsoever. And then with the defense, you got a lot of high intensity. Mike is exactly correct. Got a lot of high intensity, high voltage saccharations and pressures going on and things of that nature, but too many big plays. And then also with the kicking game, that has been, like everybody was saying, that's been doing well, but I couldn't quite figure out if I had a B or an A first. And then I tried to average it in. And then because I'm grading on a curve, well, it just doesn't work. I couldn't carry the 1. I got confused. So I give it a C minus.
Okay, Matt, hopefully, I don't know if you're grading on a curve or not, but if you could give us your grades for the Steelers offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah, these are my midterm grades as well after 8 games. I gave the offense a B. I'm worried about the running game. I thought the offensive line has struggled a little bit of late, but I want to base it over 8 games and not just 1 and what's fresh on our mind. I think Ben's had a really good year. I think the receiving core is really coming into their own. Their roles are more and more defined. The defense I gave an A minus. I mean, I was torn 24 hours ago. Would I rather have the Steelers D or the Bucs D as the #1 defense in the whole league? And the Bucs got throttled last night. It's hard to play defense in this league right now, and they're continuing to cause big plays. That's huge to me. I still think it's one of the absolute top defenses in the league. And special teams, I gave a B+. Would have given an A before yesterday. But Boz makes a huge kick. He had a phenomenal coffin corner kickoff as well. So there was much more negative on special teams than positive yesterday. But overall, for the year, the positive way outweighs the negative on special teams. And no offense to my cohorts here, but straight B's across the board and C's. This team's undefeated. They're doing something right.
Yeah, I know this. I went home with a C, and my dad high-fived me, so I'm good.
I'm the same way.
I don't want them getting soft, Matt. I want them to aim a little higher. I don't want them feeling satisfied. That's, when I used to come home with a B, my mom used to say, "How come you didn't get an A?" It was that kind of house. So, little tough love.
Well, and as Coach Tomlin has said, after pretty much every single one of these wins, it's easier when you get the W to clean things up and move on to the next game, which we will be talking about as the week goes on, an AFC North matchup here at Heinz Field against the Cincinnati Bengals. Guys, thanks so much for giving me your grades and breaking down the Steelers' win over the Cowboys. That is going to do it for the Extra Point presented by Microsoft Surface. We will see everybody back here next week.
What's up, Steeler Nation? It's your boy Juju Smith-Schuster here. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to the Steelers official YouTube channel. Thanks again. Here we go, Steelers.